Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Bible Study Minute. Today we're taking a look at Psalm 119, verses 49 through 128. And here the psalmist is continuing to share his delight for the Lord's instruction. And this delight that the psalmist has is all encompassing. He's doing everything that he can to study the word of the Lord, asking the Lord to reveal more to him so that he can understand it. And then once he understands it, he does his best to live it out. And at one point in the psalm, he says that the Lord's instruction is his life's song. And how great is that, to where everything that you think about and sing about is God's instruction and how you want to live for him. But it's not without its troubles. We see that as we read through this psalm, that the psalmist still has difficulties. He has enemies. He has points in his life where he's wondering where the Lord is, and he's crying out to him to show up in his life circumstances. And I appreciate this because it shows us that the Christian life isn't all rainbows and roses. It lets us know that there is indeed a struggle that we're living through in this world, and sometimes we're wondering where God is. And this is someone who's thinking about the Lord and his commandments day and night, who's constantly living them out. And yet there are still moments in his life where he's wondering where the Lord is, how he's going to get through a situation, why his enemies are acting the way they are against him. And I find that to be a comfort, because even in the midst of all this, the psalmist knows that the Lord is his comfort and will show up at some point. He may get tired while waiting for the Lord, but he's still waiting for the Lord, knowing that he will show up. And then at one point, he even talks about the judgment of the Lord, knowing that if the Lord judges him and disciplines him, he knows that in doing so, that God is fair and just. Now, how often can we say that? We're often praying, God, why is this happening to me? What have I done? So on and so forth. Instead of accepting and knowing that everything that God does is right and true and good, and that his judgments are fair and just. But the one thing that stands out the most in this psalm is the psalmist's readiness in verse 60 to obey the Lord's commands. He says he runs hurriedly to obey the Lord's commands. And the other day I was listening to a podcast, the Making Disciples podcast with Robbie Gallaty, and talking about the revival that his church has had over the last few months. And one of the things that he talked about was listening to the Lord and hearing the Lord's command, and then quickly obeying that command. And it makes me wonder, how often are we quick to obey the Lord's command? Are we listening to him and then delaying or saying, no, I'm not going to do that, and then eventually reluctantly doing it? Or does he have to tell us 2 or 3 times before we do it? Or are we like the psalmist and we hear God say something and then we quickly go run and do it? That's the point that we need to get to, because when we can hear God speak and tell us to do something and then quickly go and do it, that is the true mark of growth in the believer's life. The shorter the period between God telling us to do something and when we actually go and do it. So that's what I want to leave you with today as you meditate on this psalm, as you read the words that the psalmist has, as you look at his struggle, as you look at his faith and confidence in the Lord. Just look at how quickly he moved in obeying the Lord's commands, and see how quickly you are moving to obey the Lord's commands in your own life. So that's all I have for now. Until next time, grace and peace.